Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the neon numbers on the worn clock above the door strobed, Dakari began to realize the full extent of his mistake. What had started out as harmless office banter, typical even, had lulled him into a false sense of security. Victory always seemed like the only possible outcome. But he was wrong. The realization of his colossal error was made apparent in the most humiliating of ways. When Dakari stared at his reflection, the mirror mocked him with an image unrecognizable as his own. Gone was his everyday office look, and in its place stood a vision far more majestic than he could have ever imagined. The silky purple gown was a perfect fit. It hugged his frame in all the right places, emphasizing his height, broad shoulders, and a chest swelled with pride. A light knock at the door made him jump. "You almost ready in there?" His coworker Tanya's voice called out. "The party's starting soon." Dakari cleared his throat, trying to steady his nerves. Just give me another minute." He turned back to the mirror, taking in the full effect. The brown wig Tanya had lent him fell in soft waves past his shoulders. With some expert contouring, his features looked softer, more delicate. The purple eyeshadow made his dark eyes pop. If he didn't know better, Dakari might actually believe he was looking at a woman. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door. Tanya's eyes widened as she took in the sight. "Wow," she breathed. "You look amazing." Dakari felt his cheeks flush. "Thanks," he mumbled. "I feel ridiculous." Tanya shook her head, grinning. "Trust me, you look gorgeous. No one will even recognize you." She grabbed his hand, pulling him towards the door. "Now come on! We're going to be late!" The drive to the office party was a blur. Dakari's stomach churned with anxiety as they pulled into the parking lot. He'd known his coworkers for years. How was he supposed to face them like this? "Remember," Tanya said as they walked towards the building. "Your name is Annika tonight, and try to relax. You've got this." Dakari nodded, taking another deep breath. As they stepped into the party, he was struck by how different everything felt. Co-workers he'd known for years glanced at him with polite smiles, clearly not recognizing him. A few even did double takes, their eyes lingering appreciatively. It was surreal, moving through the crowd in the purple gown. Dakari found himself hyper-aware of how he moved, trying to emulate the grace he'd observed in the women around him. To his surprise, it started to feel almost natural as the night went on. "Can I get you a drink?" Dakari turned to see Mark from accounting, smiling at him. He felt a moment of panic. Surely Mark would recognize him, but there was no hint of recognition in the other man's eyes. "Oh, sure," Dakari replied, pitching his voice higher. "A glass of white wine would be lovely." Mark's smile widened. "Coming right up." As Mark walked away, Tanya appeared at Dakari's side. "See?" she whispered. "I told you no one would know. You're killing it." Dakari couldn't help but smile. There was something oddly freeing about being someone else for the night. As Annika, he found himself chatting and laughing with coworkers in a way he never had before. The anxiety that had plagued him earlier melted away, replaced by a giddy sort of excitement. As the night wore on, Dakari found himself actually enjoying the experience. The weight of the wig, the swish of the dress against his legs, the click of heels on the floor. It all felt strangely right. For the first time in his life, he felt truly comfortable in his own skin. When the party finally wound down, Dakari was surprised to find himself reluctant to leave. He lingered as people said their goodbyes, savoring the last moments of being Annika. "So," Tanya said as they walked to the car, "how did it feel?" Dakari was quiet for a moment, trying to find the right words.
"It felt amazing,"
he finally admitted.
"I've never experienced anything like it."
Tanya nodded, a knowing look in her eyes. "You know, if you ever want to explore this more, I'd be happy to help." The offer hung in the air between them. Dakari felt a thrill of excitement at the possibility.
I think I'd like that,"
he said softly. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of discovery. With Tanya's guidance, Dakari began exploring the world of feminine fashion. They started small, a few blouses, a skirt, some jewelry. But with each new item, Dakari felt more and more like he was becoming his true self. The purple evening gown hung in his closet, a constant reminder of that first transformative night. Dakari, or Annika, as she was increasingly thinking of herself, found her eyes drawn to it every time she opened the closet door. There was something magical about that dress, about the way it had opened her eyes to a whole new world. As her collection grew, Annika discovered a passion for fashion she'd never known before. She spent hours poring over fashion magazines, studying the latest trends and designer collections. Each new outfit felt like a form of self-expression, a way to show the world who she truly was. One Saturday afternoon, Annika stood in front of her full-length mirror, twirling in a new emerald green cocktail dress. The color complemented her brown hair beautifully, and the cut accentuated curves she was still getting used to. She couldn't help but smile at her reflection. A knock at the door interrupted her reverie. "Come in!" she called out, smoothing down the dress. Tanya poked her head in, grinning when she saw Annika. "Oh my God, you look stunning!" She stepped fully into the room, circling Annika to take in the full effect. "That color is perfect on you." Annika beamed, feeling a rush of confidence. "Thanks. I wasn't sure about the neckline, but I think it works." "Absolutely," Tanya agreed. "You're really getting good at this, you know. Your eye for fashion is amazing." The compliment warmed Annika from the inside out. It still amazed her sometimes, how much her life had changed in just a few short weeks. She'd gone from dreading that work party to embracing a whole new identity, and with each passing day, it felt more and more like she was becoming who she was always meant to be. "So," Tanya said, flopping down on the bed, "are you ready for tonight?" Annika's stomach fluttered with nervous excitement. Tonight was a big step, her first time going out in public as Annika. They were meeting some of Tanya's friends for dinner and drinks. It would be the first time Annika would be introducing herself to strangers in her true identity. "I think so," she said, smoothing her hands over the dress again. "I'm nervous, but I'm ready." Tanya smiled encouragingly. "You've got this. Just be yourself, the real you. That's all anyone can ask." As they drove to the restaurant, Annika found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. That fateful bet, the purple dress, the gradual exploration of her true self. It all seemed so surreal now. Yet at the same time, it felt more real than anything else in her life ever had. The restaurant was bustling when they arrived. Annika took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders as they walked in. Tanya's friends were already seated at a large table near the back. As they approached, Annika felt a momentary flash of panic. What if they could tell? What if they didn't accept her? But as introductions were made, Annika's fears melted away. Tanya's friends were warm and welcoming, complimenting her dress and asking about her interests. As the evening progressed, Annika found herself relaxing, laughing and chatting as if she'd known these people for years. "So, Annika," one of the women, Rachel, said during a lull in the conversation, "Tanya tells us you're quite the fashionista. Any tips for those of us who are fashion challenged?" Annika felt a thrill of excitement at the question. This was something she could talk about for hours. "Well," she began, leaning in conspiratorially, "the most important thing is to wear what makes you feel confident. But if you're looking for some general advice," she launched into a discussion of current trends, the importance of fit, and how to build a versatile wardrobe. As she spoke, Annika realized how much knowledge she'd absorbed over the past few weeks. More than that, she realized how passionate she was about the subject. The conversation flowed easily from there, touching on everything from the latest runway shows to vintage finds. Annika found herself in her element, offering advice and sharing her own experiences. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen and appreciated for who she was. As the night wound down, Annika couldn't keep the smile off her face. She'd done it. She'd gone out as her true self and not only survived, but thrived. The nervous energy that had filled her earlier had transformed into a bubbling excitement for what the future might hold. On the drive home, Tanya glanced over at her friend. "So," she said, a knowing smile on her face, "how do you feel?" Annika let out a contented sigh. "Amazing," she said softly. "I feel like I finally found myself. You know? Like I'm finally living the life I was meant to live." Tanya reached over, squeezing Annika's hand. "I'm so happy for you. You deserve to be your authentic self." The words brought tears to Annika's eyes. She'd spent so long feeling out of place, never quite fitting in. But now, everything felt right. She was becoming the person she was always meant to be. Over the next few months, Annika's transformation continued. She slowly began coming out to friends and family, explaining her journey and her true identity. While there were certainly challenges along the way, the overwhelming support she received buoyed her spirits and strengthened her resolve. Her wardrobe continued to expand, each new piece a celebration of her identity. She experimented with different styles, from sleek professional wear to bohemian-inspired weekend looks. But no matter what she wore, that first purple evening gown held a special place in her heart. It hung in her closet like a talisman, a reminder of the night that had changed everything. One sunny afternoon, Annika stood in front of her closet, contemplating her options. She had a job interview later that day, her first since fully embracing her identity as Annika. It was for a position at a high-end boutique, something she'd never have considered before her transformation. Her hand lingered on a crisp white blouse, paired with a tailored black pencil skirt. It was a classic look, professional and polished. But as she was about to pull them out, her eyes fell on a different outfit. The purple dress seemed to call to her. Annika hesitated for a moment, then reached for it. It might not be the most conventional choice for a job interview, but it felt right. This dress had started her on this journey. It seemed fitting that it should be part of this next big step. As she slipped the dress on, Annika felt a sense of coming full circle. The fabric still felt as luxurious as it had that first night, but now it felt like a second skin. She no longer had to consciously think about how to move or carry herself. This was who she was now, and the confidence that came with that realization radiated from her. Annika took one last look in the mirror before heading out. Her brown hair was styled in soft waves, framing her face perfectly. The purple of the dress made her eyes sparkle, but more than anything, it was the joy and authenticity shining from within that made her truly beautiful. As she walked into the boutique for her interview, Annika held her head high. She was ready for whatever came next, secure in the knowledge that she was finally, truly herself. The interviewer, a stylish woman in her 50s, looked up as Annika entered, her eyebrows raised slightly, taking in the purple evening gown. But then a smile spread across her face. "Well?" she said, standing to greet Annika. "That's certainly a bold choice. I like it." Annika felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you," she said, shaking the woman's hand. "I believe fashion is about expressing yourself, and this dress, well, it has a special meaning for me." The interviewer nodded approvingly. "I couldn't agree more. Now, why don't you tell me about your passion for fashion?" As Annika began to speak, she felt all her nervousness melt away. This was her element now. She spoke about her journey of self-discovery through fashion, her growing knowledge of designers and trends, and her desire to help others find their own personal style. The interview flew by, feeling more like an engaging conversation than a formal assessment. By the end, Annika felt confident that she'd made a strong impression.
"Well, Annika,"
the interviewer said as they wrapped up,
"I have to say, I'm impressed. Your enthusiasm and knowledge are exactly what we're looking for. And your personal journey, well, I think that gives you a unique perspective that could be incredibly valuable here."
Annika's heart soared. "Thank you so much," she said, trying to keep her voice steady despite her excitement. The interviewer smiled warmly. "I think you'll fit in wonderfully here. Welcome to the team." As Annika left the boutique, she felt like she was walking on air. She'd done it. She'd landed a job in the fashion industry, something she'd never even dreamed of before her transformation. And she'd done it by being true to herself, by embracing her identity fully. She pulled out her phone, quickly dialing Tanya's number. "I got the job!" she exclaimed as soon as her friend picked up. Tanya's squeal of excitement came through loud and clear. "I knew you would! Oh, Annika, I'm so proud of you!" As they chatted, making plans to celebrate, Annika found herself reflecting on how far she'd come. From that nervous man putting on a dress for a bet, to a confident woman pursuing her dreams. It had been quite a journey. That evening, Annika stood in front of her closet once again. This time, she wasn't choosing an outfit for an interview or a night out. She was simply admiring her collection, each piece a testament to her growth and self-discovery. Her hand brushed against the purple evening gown, now hanging proudly among her other clothes. It no longer stood out as something separate or different. It was simply part of her wardrobe, part of her life. Annika smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment wash over her. She was exactly where she was meant to be, living as her true self, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held. As she prepared for bed that night, Annika caught sight of herself in the mirror. She paused, taking in her reflection. The person staring back at her was so different from the Dakari of just a few months ago. But, at the same time, she was more herself than she'd ever been. Her brown hair fell in soft waves around her face, framing features that had become softer, more feminine over time. But it wasn't just her physical appearance that had changed. There was a light in her eyes, a confidence in her posture that hadn't been there before. Annika ran her hands over the silk of her nightgown, reveling in the feeling of the fabric against her skin. Even in something as simple as sleepwear, she found joy in expressing her femininity. It was these little moments, these small choices, that reinforced her identity every day. As she climbed into bed, Annika's thoughts drifted to the future. Tomorrow would be her first day at the boutique, the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, but mostly, she felt ready. Sleep came easily that night, filled with dreams of fashion shows and beautiful dresses. When Annika woke the next morning, she felt refreshed and energized, ready to take on the world. She took her time getting ready, wanting to make the perfect first impression. After careful consideration, she chose a sleek black sheath dress, accessorized with a statement necklace and classic pumps. As she applied her makeup, Annika marveled at how second nature it had all become. The careful application of foundation, the subtle contouring, the perfect winged eyeliner, all skills she'd honed over the past few months. As she was about to leave, Annika paused at her closet. Her eyes fell on the purple evening gown once again. On impulse, she reached out and touched the fabric, feeling a rush of gratitude for all it represented. Then, with a smile, she closed the closet door and headed out to face her new adventure. The boutique was already bustling when Annika arrived. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and walked in with confidence. Her new co-workers greeted her warmly, showing her around and explaining the daily operations. As the day progressed, Annika found herself thriving in the environment. She loved helping customers find the perfect outfit, offering styling advice, and sharing her passion for fashion. Each satisfied customer, each perfectly curated look, filled her with a sense of accomplishment. During a quiet moment, Annika found herself straightening a display of evening gowns. Her hand lingered on a purple dress, similar to the one that had started her journey. She smiled, thinking of how far she'd come.
"That's a beautiful dress,"
a voice said behind her. Annika turned to see a customer admiring the gown. "I love the color, but I'm not sure I could pull it off." Annika's smile widened.
"You'd be surprised," she said warmly. "Sometimes, the right dress can change everything."
As she helped the customer try on the dress, offering advice on accessories and styling, Annika felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She was using her own experiences, her own journey, to help others feel beautiful and confident. It was more than just a job. It was a calling. At the end of her shift, Annika's manager pulled her aside. "I have to say, Annika, I'm impressed," she said. "You have a natural talent for this. The way you connect with the customers, your eye for style, it's exactly what we were looking for." Annika beamed at the praise. "Thank you so much," she said. "I love what I do. It's not just about the clothes, you know? It's about helping people feel confident, helping them express themselves." Her manager nodded approvingly. "That's exactly the attitude we want. Keep it up, and I think you'll go far here." As Annika left the boutique that evening, she felt a sense of belonging she'd never experienced before. This was where she was meant to be, doing what she was meant to do. Her journey of self-discovery had led her to a place where she could not only be herself, but help others do the same. She pulled out her phone, sending a quick text to Tanya. "First day was amazing. Drinks later to celebrate?" Tanya's reply came almost immediately. "Absolutely! So proud of you, girl." Annika smiled, putting her phone away and heading home to change. As she walked, she couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed. From that first nervous bet to this moment of triumph, it had been a whirlwind of transformation and growth. But through it all, one thing remained constant: the purple evening gown hanging in her closet, a reminder of where she'd started and how far she'd come. It was more than just a dress now. It was a symbol of her journey, of her courage to embrace her true self. As Annika unlocked her apartment door, she felt a sense of excitement for what the future might hold. She had found her place in the world, living authentically and pursuing her passion. And she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them as her true self. Confident, stylish, and unapologetically Annika.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!